Good evening. It's Saturday, the 25th of October here in Korea. You are tuned in to our 6 p.m. newscast here on Arirang TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Scott Thompson. Our top story this evening, South Korea and the United States reaffirmed their unified front against North Korea's nuclear program. During security talks in Washington, the chiefs of defense and foreign affairs from both countries tell North Korea that economic development will never come so long as the regime pursues nuclear development. Our Hwang Ji-hye starts us off.
The denuclearization of North Korea is what topped the agenda at security talks between South Korea and the United States. The meeting took place as Korean Foreign Minister Byung-se and Defense Minister Min-koo sat down on Friday with their U.S. counterparts, Secretary of State John Kerry and Pentagon Chief Chuck Hagel. In a joint statement after the so-called 2+2 talks, the two sides pressed North Korea to give up its nuclear program and refrain from provocations. They added that the North will fail in any effort to improve its economy so long as it's pursuing nuclear weapons. That puts pressure on Pyongyang's so-called Byung-se policy, which aims to achieve economic and nuclear development at the same time. In a press conference after the meeting, Secretary of State John Kerry said that Washington is willing to hold nuclear talks with Pyongyang, but not just for the sake of talks. Kerry added that the U.S. needs to be certain that the North is prepared to live up to its international obligations and abide by international norms of behavior. Over reducing the number of American troops stationed on the Korean peninsula, the top U.S. diplomat said it's entirely premature to talk about the issue. This tamped down some speculation that mounted earlier this week after Kerry said the U.S. was prepared to reduce troop levels in the region as a possible concession for the North's denuclearization. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Attempts by South Korean activists to fly some 50,000 anti-Pyongyang leaflets across the border today failed. Roads leading to the launch site were blocked by some 200 area residents and liberal activists who also damaged balloons that were going to carry the flyers. Earlier in the day, the North warned Seoul once again to stop the planned cross-border launch of propaganda flyers, saying that doing so would jeopardize recent improvements in inter-Korean ties. The two Koreas exchanged machine gun fire across their shared border 2 weeks ago after similar balloons were sent into the air. The commander of U.S. forces in South Korea believes the North may already have the capability to produce a miniaturized nuclear warhead. U.S. Army General Curtis Scaparrotti says that North Korea has made significant advances in its technology in recent months, but added that there's zero evidence that the North has tested or even produced such a weapon. If they do, the small warhead could conceivably be placed on an intercontinental ballistic missile and launched far enough to reach America's shores. It would also make it much easier for the North to sell nuclear weapons for much needed cash. As for the recent speculation about whether North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was losing his grip on power following a lengthy absence from the public eye, General Scaparrotti said Kim still appears to be very much in charge. Now, not far underneath all the exchanges of gunfire and harsh rhetoric between the two Koreas are cultural ties that remain strong to this day, some 70 years after the peninsula became divided. To remember and honor those shared cultural traits and build off of them, a film festival gets started this Saturday throughout the country. Park Ji-won tells us about it.
The first film festival featuring movies from both South and North Korea begins on Saturday. Handprints of 70 renowned figures in South Korean film and related government officials were unveiled at the opening ceremony to mark the next year will be the 70th year since two Koreas were divided. The first South and North Korea film screening event is jointly hosted and supported by those in the film industry and the country's unification and culture ministries. The goal is to promote public understanding about North Korea.
As far as I know, this is the first public film screening event of North Korean films in South Korea. I believe unification can only be possible when the two Koreas share one mind. And arts and culture is the best place to start with that. I know that East and West Germany reunited in the 1990s. but they began cooperative relations in the arts sector starting in the 1970s and continued the initiative until reunification. I hope the event can be the foundation for further cross-border exchanges.
Legendary film director Im Kwon-taek was awarded the first Peace Prize of the event in recognition of his lifelong contributions to films that aim to narrow the divide between the Koreas.
I made many films depicting characters who live under constant pain due to the nation's separation. Now I want to make a new film around the theme of tearing down the psychological barriers and grudges in the minds of all Koreans. I hope the film contributes to future unification.
A total of 8 films from the two Koreas will be screened at 20 theaters across the South through the end of this month. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Add Korea's prime minister to the list of government officials calling on Japan to own up to its historical past for the sake of bettering relations. During a speech at an event for the Korea-Japan Parliamentarians Union on Saturday in Seoul, Chung Hong-won said bilateral ties would only improve once both sides made sincere efforts to heal past wounds. That, the prime minister said, depended on Tokyo's actions. Once those differences are set aside, Chung said Korea and Japan held the key to the world's peace and prosperity. The prime minister's remarks echo those made by President Park Geun-hye earlier this year when she said 2015 would be a new starting point for Korea-Japan ties, as it marks the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations being established between the two countries. Over to another school shooting in the United States, this time in the state of Washington, just outside of Seattle, where a high school freshman opened fire in a school cafeteria, killing one student and wounding 4 others. Authorities have identified the gunman as 14-year-old Jalen Freiberg. They say he took his own life after firing on fellow classmates, including 2 who were his cousins. The 4 survivors were shot in the head. 3 of them are in critical condition, fighting for their lives. Meanwhile, in Northern California, a total of 4 shootings, all involving one suspect, who has now been apprehended. A 6-hour chase and manhunt was sparked by the shooting death of a sheriff's deputy in the city of Sacramento. While on the run, the 34-year-old suspect opened fire on 2 more deputies, one of whom was killed. And staying in the U.S., the most populous city there is on edge over Ebola concerns. This after the infection of a doctor in New York City who recently returned from Guinea. To allay fears, the governors of both New York and New Jersey have ordered a mandatory 21-day quarantine of all medical workers and any airline passenger who has come into contact with victims of the virus. A healthcare worker in New Jersey who returned home Friday after treating Ebola patients in West Africa was the first to be quarantined under the order. She has reportedly since developed a fever and is being evaluated. The World Health Organization says nearly 4,900 people have died of Ebola in the current outbreak. The overwhelming majority of cases have been in West Africa. Now to the wonders of modern science and a first that could signal a paradigm shift in organ donation. A medical team in Australia has transplanted a heart that stopped beating for 20 minutes. It took 12 years to develop the technique, which utilizes a portable unit that keeps blood flowing through heart tissue. As it stands now, most hearts are donated by patients who are brain dead, which means their hearts are still beating when they are transplanted. This new technique means that more hearts, even from donors who have passed, could be used for transplantation. The executive director of the institute behind the breakthrough believes it will save 20 to 30% more lives. Now, one of the most popular street foods here in Korea is Mook, or fish cakes, but they're never more popular than during winter, when the inviting warmth of a food truck lures hungry customers in. Now there's a new spin on Mook, taking the southern port city of Busan by storm. Our Son Jung-in takes a look.
It could be mistaken for a bakery with its fancy interior, but this is an Mook store in Busan that is popular in the city, already famous for its delicious fish cakes. Customers are busy making their selections from rows of Mook in cookie-like shapes, colors, and sizes displayed nicely in baskets. This so-called Mook bakery also gives buyers the opportunity to learn and make their own homemade fish cakes.
On weekends or holidays, we sell around 10,000 Mook croquettes and serve about 2,000 to 3,000 shoppers a day.
This other Mook store offers unique fish cake menus ranging from hamburger and sushi to noodles. Its coffee shop-like interior design makes for an inviting atmosphere for people who are looking for something special to try. This strategic approach has helped this new Mook trend hit the streets in Busan by transforming cheap street food into a high-quality dish. A local department store aware of this growing trend set aside a room for an Mook store, and its sales, they say, are exceeding expectations.
This Mook store opened just a month ago, and it is surprising to see how popular it has become among shoppers.
Mook is taking a new step forward to refashion itself as a luxurious food that people can taste in the convenient and pleasant atmosphere of a cafe or bakery. 손정인, 아리랑 뉴스.
Finally, leaving you with the weather. It was a warm and sunny day here in the nation's capital, but temperatures will dip overnight to 12 degrees. Sunday will be similar to what we enjoyed today, with highs in the low 20s, although with a slight chance of showers in the afternoon. Let's take a look at the weather conditions in your part of the world. And that's all for now. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday wherever you are. I'll be back again at 10 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.